Imagine walking into a room, and without saying a word, every eye turns to you. Not because you're loud or flashy, but because you carry a quiet power that demands respect. What if that power isn't about being seen, but about becoming someone no one can fully reach? Welcome to the secret Carl Jung knew all along. True strength lies in being unattainable. In a world that pushes you to react, explain, and please everyone, Carl Jung's wisdom shows us a different path. The journey of individuation, where you shed society's expectations to become your truest self. When you stop chasing approval and start setting boundaries, something incredible happens. People notice you differently. They're drawn to your mystery, your calm, your control. In this video, we'll uncover what really happens when you embrace this power, inspired by Carl Jung's timeless teachings. Through real-life stories, we'll explore how to break free from the trap of being too reachable, harness the strength of silence, and let go of what holds you back. By the end, you'll have practical steps to unlock your inner sovereignty. So, are you ready to stop reacting and start commanding your life? Let's dive into Carl Jung's world and discover the power of becoming unattainable. Stick around. This is going to change how you see yourself. Have you ever felt like you're running on a hamster wheel, constantly reacting to everyone and everything around you? You answer every text, even when you're exhausted. You smile through conversations you'd rather avoid. You explain yourself to people who don't even deserve your time. Sound familiar? This is the trap of being too reachable, a cycle that drains your energy and chips away at your power. Carl Jung, the legendary psychologist, called this the burden of the persona, the mask we wear to fit in, to be liked, to meet society's endless demands. But here's the truth. The more you let the world pull your strings, the less you belong to yourself. Let's unpack how this trap works, why it's so hard to escape, and how Carl Jung's wisdom can set you free. Society trains us early to be accessible. From childhood, we're taught to please others, say yes when we mean no, apologize when we're not sorry, perform for approval. Over time, this becomes second nature. You become the good friend who's always there, the reliable co-worker who never says no, or the nice person who avoids conflict at all costs. But what does this cost you? Carl Jung believed the this polished, people-pleasing version of you can disconnect you from your true self. When you prioritize others' expectations over your own needs, you're not living, you're performing. And the audience? They don't even notice the toll it takes. Let's meet Sarah, a 32-year-old marketing manager who fell deep into this trap. Sarah was everyone's go-to person. Her phone buzzed constantly with work emails, friend dramas, and family requests. She'd reply to every message within minutes, even at 2 a.m. She'd take on extra projects at work, even when her plate was full. She'd listen to her friends' endless complaints, even when she was crumbling inside. Why? Because Sarah believed that being reachable made her valuable. If she stopped responding, stopped helping, stopped being nice, she feared she'd lose her place in people's lives. But the reality was brutal. Her colleagues took her for granted, her friends leaned on her without reciprocating, and her family expected her to fix their problems. Sarah wasn't powerful, she was depleted. Carl Jung would say Sarah's persona had taken over. The persona is the face you show the world to survive socially, but when it dominates, it drowns out your inner voice. For Sarah, her persona was the helpful, always-on woman, but it came at the expense of her authenticity. She wasn't choosing who to help or when to say no. She was reacting on autopilot, letting others dictate her worth. Carl Jung warned that over-identifying with the persona creates a hollow existence. You become a puppet, dancing to someone else's tune. And the worst part, the more you give, the less people value you. Humans are wired to chase what's scarce, not what's always available. So why is it so hard to break free? The trap of being too reachable is rooted in fear. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of being selfish. Society reinforces this by praising those who sacrifice themselves. Think about it. We celebrate the co-worker who works late, the parent who never takes a break, the friend who drops everything for others. But Carl Jung saw through this illusion. He believed true growth, his concept of individuation, starts when you dare to peel back the persona and face your real self, flaws and all. This isn't easy. It means saying no when it feels uncomfortable. It means disappointing people who expect your time. It means risking judgment to protect your peace. Sarah's wake-up call came when she hit rock bottom. One night, after answering yet another work email at midnight, she broke down. She realized she hadn't done anything for herself in months. Her hobbies, her health, her dreams, they'd all been sidelined to keep up with others' demands. That's when she stumbled across Carl Jung's ideas in a podcast. His concept of the persona hit her like a lightning bolt. She wasn't living as Sarah. She was living as the version others wanted. She decided to experiment. For 1 week, she stopped responding to non-urgent messages. She said no to an extra project at work. She took an evening to paint, something she hadn't done in years. At first, the guilt was overwhelming. She worried people would think she was cold or unreliable. But something surprising happened. The world didn't fall apart. Her colleagues respected her boundaries. Her friends reached out with genuine concern. And for the first time in years, Sarah felt a spark of control. This is the first lesson Carl Jung teaches us. Being reachable doesn't make you powerful, it makes you vulnerable. When you react to every demand, you hand over your energy to others. But when you choose when and how to respond, you reclaim your sovereignty. Start small like Sarah did. Turn off notifications for an hour. Say no to one request that doesn't serve you. Notice how it feels to prioritize yourself. Carl Jung's individuation isn't about becoming selfish. It's about becoming whole. It's about shedding the persona that keeps you tethered to others' expectations and stepping into the person you're meant to be. Here's the kicker. The less reachable you become, the more people value you. It's human nature. When Sarah stopped being always on, her colleagues started seeking her input with more respect. Her friends began appreciating her time instead of expecting it. By setting boundaries, she wasn't pushing people away. She was teaching them how to value her. Carl Jung would nod in approval. He believed that true connection comes from authenticity, not availability. When you stop performing and start living as your real self, you attract people who see you for who you are, not what you do for them. So, ask yourself, where are you too reachable? Who's pulling your strings? What persona are you wearing that's no longer yours? The trap of being too reachable isn't just about time or energy, it's about losing yourself. But you can escape it. Carl Jung's wisdom shows us how. Start by noticing when you're reacting out of habit. Pause before you respond. Choose what deserves your attention. Every small act of reclaiming your time is a step toward freedom. In the next chapter, we'll dive into how silence and boundaries become your greatest weapons, straight from Carl Jung's playbook. What if the most powerful thing you could do is nothing? Not reacting to every jab, not jumping to defend yourself, not filling every silence with explanations. In a world that demands your response, choosing silence is a rebellion. It's not weakness, it's strategy. Carl Jung, the master of the human psyche, would call this taming your shadow, the hidden part of you that craves validation, fears judgment, and pushes you to react when you should stay still. When you learn to wield silence and set boundaries, you don't just protect your energy, you become magnetic, commanding respect without saying a word. Let's dive into how this works, why it's transformative, and how Carl Jung's wisdom can help you turn silence into your greatest weapon. Carl Jung taught that the shadow is the part of us we hid our insecurities, our need to please, our impulsive reactions. When someone criticizes you, and you feel that urge to snap back or over-explain, that's your shadow talking. It wants to be seen, validated, or proven right. But here's the catch. Every time you give in to that urge, you hand over your power. You let others control your emotions. Carl Jung believed that true strength comes from integrating the shadow, acknowledging it without letting it rule you. Silence is how you start. By choosing not to react, you starve the shadow of its fuel. You take back control, and in that calm you create a presence that's impossible to ignore. Let's look at James, a 28-year-old graphic designer who learned this the hard way. James was known for his quick wit and sharp comebacks. At work, if a colleague questioned his ideas, he'd fire back with a clever retort. On social media, he'd dive into arguments with strangers, determined to prove his point. Even with friends, he felt compelled to explain every decision, from why he skipped a party to why he chose a new career path. James thought this made him strong after all. He was standing up for himself. But deep down, he was exhausted. Every argument left him drained. Every explanation felt like a plea for approval. He was reacting to everything, and it was costing him his peace. One day, James stumbled across Carl Jung's concept of the shadow in a book. It hit him. His need to argue, to be right, to be understood, was his shadow running the show. He decided to try something radical: silence. The next time a colleague challenged his design, he paused, nodded, and said, "I'll think about it." No defense, no comeback. At first it felt unnatural, like he was surrendering. But then he noticed a shift. His colleague, expecting a debate, was thrown off. Instead of escalating, they moved on, and later they approached James with more respect. When a friend questioned his choice to skip a group outing, James simply said, "It's just not for me right now." No long explanation. To his surprise, his friend didn't push back. They valued his clarity. Silence wasn't weakness, it was power. This is where boundaries come in. Silence alone isn't enough. You need to back it up with clear, unshakable boundaries. Carl Jung's idea of integrating the shadow isn't about shutting down your emotions. It's about choosing what deserves your response. Boundaries are your shield. They say, "This is my space, my energy, my peace, and you don't get to cross it without my permission." For James, boundaries meant turning off his phone after 8 p.m. to avoid endless group chats. It meant saying no to projects that didn't align with his goals. It meant walking away from debates that led nowhere. Each boundary was a declaration: my time, my energy, my worth are mine to protect. Why does this work? Because silence and boundaries flip the script. People expect you to react. They're used to pushing your buttons and getting a response. When you don't give it, you disrupt their game. Carl Jung would argue this is how you integrate your shadow. By facing the discomfort of not reacting, you grow stronger. You teach others how to treat you. When James stopped arguing, his colleagues stopped challenging him for sport. When he stopped explaining, his friends stopped questioning his choices. His silence spoke louder than any comeback ever could. And here's the magic. People are drawn to those who don't need their approval. It's why the quiet person in the room often holds the most power. They're not begging for attention, so they command it naturally. But let's be real, it's not easy. Choosing silence feels like losing at first. Your shadow will scream, "Say something, defend yourself." They'll think you're weak. That's the fear talking, the part of you that Carl Jung says needs integration. The trick is to sit with that discomfort. Notice it, but don't act on it. Start small. The next time someone baits you into an argument, pause for 5 seconds. Take a breath. Ask yourself, does this deserve my energy? If the answer is no, let silence do the talking. Over time, you'll feel the shift. You'll notice how people start to respect your space, how they stop testing you, how they lean in when you do speak. That's the magnetism. Carl Jung's teachings unlock a presence that doesn't need to shout to be heard. Here's a practical step. Set one boundary this week. Maybe it's not answering work emails after 6 p.m. Maybe it's saying no to a draining conversation. Maybe it's keeping your plans private instead of justifying them. Notice how it feels to guard your energy. For James, these small acts were game changers. He started showing up to meetings calmer, more focused. His ideas carried more weight because he wasn't wasting energy on petty debates. His friends noticed a new confidence in him, not arrogance, but a quiet strength that made them want to know him better. Carl Jung would call this a step toward individuation, aligning with your true self by letting go of the need to react. The power of silence and boundaries isn't just about saying less, it's about being more. When you stop reacting to every provocation, you create space for your real self to emerge. You stop being the puppet and become the master. Carl Jung's shadow teaches us that our impulses don't define you, so choices do. So, choose silence when it serves you. Choose boundaries that protect you. In the next chapter, we'll explore how letting go takes this power to the next level, unlocking the freedom Carl Jung called true individuation. What if the key to true freedom isn't holding on tighter, but letting go completely. Letting go of toxic relationships, draining obligations, or the need to be seen as good by everyone. It sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest things you'll ever do. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the journey to becoming your truest self by shedding what no longer belongs to you. When you let go, you don't lose. You liberate yourself. You step into a version of you that's untouchable, not because you're hiding, but because you've chosen what deserves your energy. In this chapter, we'll explore how letting go makes you unattainable, why it's so powerful, and how Carl Jung's wisdom can guide you to a life of inner peace and strength. Carl Jung believed individuation is the path to wholeness. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about stripping away the layers, expectations, fears, attachments that keep you from your authentic self. Every time you cling to something that doesn't serve you, whether it's a job that drains you or a relationship that dims your light, you stay tethered to a version of yourself that isn't real. Letting go, in Carl Jung's view, is an act of courage. It's saying, I am enough without this, and trusting that what's meant for you will stay. When you release what weighs you down, you create space for your true power to emerge, power that makes you unattainable because you no longer need external validation to feel whole. Let's meet Mia, a 35-year-old teacher who learned this lesson through heartbreak. Mia had been in a relationship for 5 years with someone who constantly criticized her. He'd belittle her dreams, question her choices, and make her feel small. Yet, she stayed. Why? Because she loved him, and she believed that love meant holding on, no matter the cost. She thought if she tried harder, explained herself better, or changed who she was, he'd see her value. But the more she gave, the less he respected her. Mia was stuck, pouring her energy into a relationship that was suffocating her soul. She was reachable too, reachable, and it was breaking her. One evening after another argument where she felt unheard, Mia came across Carl Jung's idea of individuation in an online course. It struck her. She was clinging to a relationship that didn't align with who she wanted to be. She was sacrificing her authenticity to keep someone who didn't see her. Letting go felt terrifying. What if she ended up alone? What if she regretted it? But Carl Jung's words echoed. True growth comes from facing the unknown, not avoiding it. Mia made a choice. She ended the relationship, not with anger, but with clarity. She told herself, I deserve a life where I'm not begging to be seen. The first few weeks were painful. She doubted herself, missed him, and feared she'd made a mistake. But slowly, something shifted. Without the weight of that relationship, Mia rediscovered herself. She started journaling, a practice Carl Jung championed for exploring the inner self. She reconnected with old hobbies, like hiking, that her ex had dismissed. She set boundaries with friends who drained her, saying no to plans that didn't spark joy. Most importantly, she stopped explaining her choices. When people asked why she was single, she'd smile and say, I'm choosing me right now. That simple act of letting go of a toxic partner, of the need to justify herself, made Mia magnetic. Friends noticed a new confidence in her. Colleagues admired her calm focus. Even strangers seemed drawn to her quiet strength. She wasn't unattainable because she was cold. She was unattainable because she was complete. Carl Jung's individuation teaches us that letting go is not a loss, it's a reclamation. Every time you release something that doesn't serve you, you take a step toward your true self. It's not just about relationships. Maybe it's a job that stifles your creativity, like the one Mia later left to pursue freelance writing. Maybe it's the need to be liked, which keeps you saying yes when you want to say no. Or maybe it's the urge to control how others see you, which traps you in a cycle of over-explaining. Letting go means trusting that your worth doesn't depend on those things. It's scary, yes, but it's also freeing. Carl Jung believed that when you let go of what's not yours, you make room for what is. Here's why this matters. The less you need, the more powerful you become. When Mia stopped needing her ex's approval, she stopped being reachable to his criticism. When she stopped needing to be everyone's yes person, she stopped being drained by their demands. This is the essence of being unattainable. You choose what gets your time, your heart, your energy. People notice this shift. They sense you're no longer swayed by their opinions or expectations. And that's magnetic. Carl Jung would say, this is individuation in action, living from your core, not from what the world demands. So, how do you start? Take a page from Mia's story. Identify one thing you're holding onto that doesn't serve you. It could be a grudge, a role you play to please others, or a commitment that feels heavy. Ask yourself, does this align with who I want to be? If the answer is no, take one small step to let it go. Maybe it's saying no to a draining invitation. Maybe it's walking away from a one-sided friendship. Maybe it's choosing not to explain why you're taking time for yourself. Start small, but start. Each act of letting go builds your inner strength, making you less reachable to what doesn't matter and more aligned with what does. Carl Jung's wisdom reminds us that letting go is not about cutting TS, it's about cutting chains. It's about freeing yourself from the need to be understood, approved, or validated. Mia learned this, and it transformed her. She wasn't just single, she was sovereign. She wasn't just alone, she was whole. And that wholeness made her unattainable in the best way, untouchable by the chaos of others' expectations, grounded in her own truth. In our final chapter, we'll tie it all together with Carl Jung's vision of true power and show you how to step into this life-changing mindset for good. You've just walked through a transformative journey with Carl Jung's wisdom. And here's the truth. Becoming unattainable isn't about shutting the world out, it's about opening your heart to your own power. From escaping the trap of being too reachable, to wielding silence as your sword, to letting go of what no longer serves you, you're now armed with Carl Jung's vision of individuation, the path to your truest, most sovereign self. Imagine a life where you choose what touches you, where your peace is unshakable, where your presence commands respect without effort. That's the power of being unattainable, and it's already within you. So, what's your next step? Ask yourself, what's one thing you can let go of today to step closer to that version of you? Share it in the comments below. Write, "My silence is my power," and tell us what you're releasing to claim your strength. If this video sparked something in you, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell to join our Jung Psyche Hub community. We're here to dive deeper into self-discovery and psychology every week. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and let's spread Carl Jung's wisdom together. Your journey to becoming unattainable starts now. Take that first step, and don't look back.